Aloha foilers, welcome back to another episode of Foil the World with myself, your host, Brian Finch. Today's special guest is Kyle Bartholomew. That is at Foil Spider on Instagram. Kyle is a wing foiler, prone foiler, downwind sup foiler whom resides in San Diego, California. He's well traveled and has ties to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. A lot of experience foiling around the world. Kyle is the winner of Unifoil's 2024 community contest with his Scrub Island skit, which was quite hilarious and entertaining. Kyle is also a recent Unifoil ambassador. He creates a lot of funny and intriguing video content on Instagram. I've dubbed him as must-see TV. He's got a certain charisma and espouses positivity. He's a fun dude, fun to chat with. Really enjoyed this convo. If you're enjoying these episodes, please like, subscribe, share, comment, let your friends know, and hit me with some feedback. Let me know what I'm doing wrong, what I'm doing right. This is a work in progress. I'm trying to get better at this and provide value out there to the community. Let me know who I should have on the show and what you'd like to hear more and or less of. Rip me a new one if you need, and pump me up if you're feeling it. Thank you for watching and enjoy this episode. Kyle Bartholomew, Foil Spider, Spider Foil. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Brian.
Yeah, stoked you came on, man. I kind of refer to you behind your back as must-see TV. You're just super entertaining on Instagram, man. I love your vibe, hyper positive, even with your hate rant post. Even that it was still ended positive and was great. We could talk about that in a minute. It's classic. So you first came onto my radar mainly through the Unifoil community contest that you competed in and won. You did a Love Island spoof called Scrub Island. It was pretty freaking hilarious. I want you to walk me through that, the inspiration behind it, and how'd you convince your friends to participate? And it looked like a lot of it was really well done. It was very well produced, and the acting and the humor was just unreal. Tell me about this.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I've always liked making videos. Like, if you go deep back on my Instagram, back when I was living in Florida, making just like funny videos, things that crack me up. And I saw this contest. I was just getting into foiling. I'm like, yeah, I know my foiling's not up to chops. Like, nothing to hide there.
To
And I
interject,
know
there was a like a ripping category and a humor category you could enter, right?
Yeah.
So you entered the humor category and you crushed it.
Yeah, and I was like, I know everyone's going to be kicking out foiling clips, right? Like, what can I do to be a little different, something that I find funny? And I think there was like maybe at the time there was a Love Island season had just come out or something, so it was a pretty big, hot thing at the time. So I was like, oh man, this would be so funny. And I just got a new board from Dom. I'm like thinking, what if we make a Love Island spoof where the unifoil is essentially like the new hot bombshell that enters the villa. And I think it's something that's somewhat relatable where it's like, you know, anybody who's got a lady or a significant other in their life, like foiling has kind of become something where it's a big part of your life and you devote time to it, right? So you do kind of have to balance, like I've got, you know, my personal and my professional side of my life. Then I've got this whole other aspect of my life that I spend a lot of time, money, resources on doing, and it almost becomes like a second girlfriend.
Yeah, there's the aspect too, like the new foil brand or the new wing that comes out to, everyone wants to flock to, and it's, you know, you drop your gear and you're like, ooh, what's that?
Yeah, right. Like, oh, you think you have the best one, and then you see somebody else in the parking lot. You're like, oh, maybe I want to hop teams here.
It's so easy, man. It's you know, it's the grass is always greener.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No. What was involved in filming that, and how'd you convince your friends? Those are like good friends. I don't know if I could ever get my friends to have that big of a commitment to help me out with anything in life.
Yeah, so we shot it in one day, and I did have to kind of be like, look, we're going to be acting. It's going to be funny. Like, Don't be embarrassed. Like, I'm going to be really embarrassed too. We're all going to be in this together. I'll send you guys the final clip or the final cut before I put it out. Make sure everybody kind of is okay with it. But once we kind of got into it, everybody sort of got into the vibe and was really enjoying, like, everybody had seen Love Island. Everybody was having a funny time being their characters and everything. I mean, everybody loves being in front of the camera, right? Like, most people. And then I think when they saw the final clip, people were like, all right, this is pretty funny.
It was pretty genius. So you came out on top. What did you win from the contest?
Yeah, so I got really hooked up. Full, like, mast setup, a full front wing, tail wings, a new fuselage, and actually the 6 meter wing, which is, I learned to wing on it. I've been using the wing for, I don't know, 2 years now, right? It's been some really solid gear that I've been super psyched on.
You've been foiling for around 2 years, from, scrolling the gram and seeing you, like, your first kind of, pumps and connections. And now 2 years later, you're out there doing the damn thing, killing it.
Trying. Yeah, I got the first foil set up almost exactly 2 years ago in September of 2023. And it was kind of like an interesting time. I didn't really have anybody to, like, guide me, except for, Christian Park Seafoils.
Yeah.
Yeah, so him and I went to college together in Australia in 2014. So I'd known him and followed him, and I saw him foiling, and I'm like, oh, this looks sick. Like, and he kind of guided me a little, and I did the exact opposite of what he said to do, which is, he was like, do not price shop in the beginning, right? Like, you're going to get hooked, and then you're going to have to just buy the nicer thing. Did the exact opposite of that. Like, bought some really cheap setup, like some 100-liter wing board, and was just absolutely struggling in the beginning. Like, I'd be out grinding every day, no idea about the conditions I want or the tide or anything, like getting wrapped up in the kelp here. And I was starting to think, dude, after the first couple sessions, I'm like, dude, are all these videos I'm seeing like AI? Like, are these people towing in? Like, this paddle up stuff is just too hard. But then I got hooked up with Dom, who lives here near me as well, and he let me borrow one of his 170s, dude. And the first time I went out there on the 170, I'm like, oh my God, this is what it's supposed to feel like. And I, like, linked a wave or something, and I was like, oh my God, this is what's up. And then instantly bought all the unifoil stuff. I'm like, this is how it's supposed to be.
It's crazy how stark a difference is those V1 and V2 versions of foils compared to everything that's released after. It's night and day.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, through my whole life, I've always taken the sort of thought, like, it's the painter, not the brush, right? And I do think, there is a degree of truth to that in foiling, but this is a unique sport where, like, the equipment is such a fine piece of technology. Like, it does make a big difference.
So, Kyle, you are Spider Foil, well, at Foil Spider on Instagram. Refer to yourself as Spider Foil. You've branded yourself. You've got a logo. Where does this name come from?
Yeah, so when I was getting into foiling, I really wanted to, like, document the journey kind of and not blow up my main feed. It seemed like everybody kind of had foil Instagrams. I'm like, that seems like a good idea. I kind of want to document my journey.
Right, because the general public just doesn't give a rat's ass on.
Dude, they could care less, right? Like, it's for a niche community, And I'm a pretty, like, lanky guy, and I love to get out on, like, the dance floor, throw the arms around. And my friends from home have always called me, like, a spider. And then that sort of translated into, when I would grow up surfing in Florida, a lot of my friends would call me, excuse the language here, they say my surfing stance looked like a spider fuck, like like the stink bug surfing stance. So I was, like, thinking, like, spider foil, spider fuck, it kind of goes together, and sort of just naturally translated into becoming the foil spider.
So let's call this your alter ego, your foil ego. But there's also corporate Kyle. You've referred to yourself as. Who is corporate Kyle? What are you doing for a living? I see you basically bopping around the world.
Yeah, man. So corporate, I mean, through my whole life, I've had, like, sort of this, I don't want to say devil and angel on the shoulder, but kind of a dichotomy of myself where, so when I grew up, my parents actually worked for Delta Airlines. So I've been traveling my whole life. I mean, it's my parents' profession, right? And they didn't have a typical 9 to 5. So, like, we would travel quite a bit. And that sort of has become, like, a little bit of a part of me where I've always had a kind of a desire to just like sort of bug off and maybe be like a bum. But then the flip side is like sort of been, I don't know, like a higher achiever throughout a lot of my life, like working hard. So I had that sort of devil and angel, like, oh, grind, success, like accomplish things. And then also it's like, oh, what if you want to just go to like Bali for a month or whatever? And I do think with this like corporate lifestyle, I've been able to strike sort of a pretty good balance where like I work really hard, but I mean, if you're listening and you can get a remote sales job or software development job where you can kind of manage your own time, you know, after COVID, right? Like this remote work lifestyle is really attainable and it gives you a lot of freedom if you have the discipline to kind of buckle down. Like I just got back from a month in Europe, like was working the whole time, and you can really like grind out and be corporate and then have that flip side of you that's like in the water at 10 a.m. if you're getting your stuff done.
That's great, man. One of your posts that really cracked me up was your hate post on, it's super relatable, on Rip Curl and Surfline.
Yeah.
Walk us through this. It was a wetsuit that was falling apart. I've had similar experience where I nearly did the same thing. Like, I can't believe I spent, you know, $300 plus on this thing and it didn't even make it through a season. Let's throw some more hate out there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't actually have hate. Like foiling has legit like changed my life in the positive, but you know, I am in the software game. I've been selling software for 10 years and I did actually build my own business once. So I kind of got that like notion of like what it takes to be running a business, if you will. And I'm sitting at work and I get that email from the Surfline CEO and it's something along the lines of like, oh, we're going to crack down on shared accounts to make your experience better. And I'm just like, dude, this is a for-profit business. Like, we know why you're cracking down on shared accounts. Like, just say that. Like, don't be patronizing, right? Like, I totally understand. Yeah, man. Like, I'll pay for Surfline for the rest of my life. I know I'm going to do it. Raise the price. I'll still pay for it. It's the best thing going. And so I just like that email kind of like rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. However, I do want to retract a little bit of that hate because I know I'm not a smartwatch guy, but some of my friends are. And I know they're doing that. I don't know if you've seen, they're doing that thing now where it like tracks your waves automatically via the watch.
Okay.
So that's kind of like, so when they're Surfline's like, I'm going to make the experience better for you. Like, it's like, all right, like if you're actually going to just upload my clips and my waves via my watch, that's pretty cool. Cause I know this is kind of polarizing, but if you've seen my Instagram, I am kind of a rewind guy. I don't have anybody to film me. And I do spend a lot of time like flipping through rewind to find the clips. So if I had the smartwatch and the link to the Surfline app and it just put it directly onto my account or whatever, that'd actually be a pretty good value add. So a little bit of hate retracted from Surfline. Like, I'd love for you to still shoot me straight, but that is a nice value add that they're doing.
I love
the one thing I will add to Surfline is like, if like the rewind clip thing is default for like a surfing wave, which is like 10 seconds. Like, we're out there foiling, you know, like 10 minutes on a wave. Like, let's get a foiling mode for the rewind clips.
I wonder if they'll end up doing, as foiling grows, doing foil specific forecasts.
Oh, that'd be sick. Hey, with like the wave like period and stuff like that. Yeah,
really cool. For downwind section, you know, prone waves, it's 2 feet and firing, get out there on the foil type thing. If you're a surfer, stay home. Let the water skippers take over. Yeah.
0 to 1 or 1 to 2 becomes good to epic instead of like terrible.
You get the alerts.
Yeah.
But at the end of that post, you come across, you're just a super positive dude and seem to always be fired up, you know. And I love how at the end of that post, you're like, all right, Rip Curl. You know, I hope everyone at Rip Curl is having a great day, but I hope everyone at O'Neill's having an even better day.
Yeah, man, that firebomb they made is crazy. Like, when I had the Rip Curl one, I'm like, all right. And then this thing started falling apart, so I got the O'Neill one. I'm like, all right, this is how it should be. Like, the good people at Rip Curl, they built a great business, but if they could just make their seams a little better, then we'd all be a little better off.
I love that, dude. So no O'Neill sponsor, but you do have a sponsor. You gotta run me through this, how this came to fruition, the Siete Chips, tortilla chip sponsorship.
Yeah. So pretty much, I think like the theme, if you will, of like the spider foil Instagram is just like, I kind of just try to kick out stuff that I find pretty funny. And I'm sure you guys have seen, like, you'll see like athletes being like, oh, like I'm powered by Red Bull or like I'm powered by Celsius or powered by Gatorade. And I actually have a friend that works for Siete Chips and just sent me a care package one day. I thought it'd be so funny to be like, as a foiling athlete, which is like very tongue in cheek, right? Be like, I'm powered by a chips company. It's like so antithesis of the, I'm powered by Red Bull, and I'm out there like, you got like Nathan Florence packing like 20-foot slabs, and I'm just like kicking around in my backyard on 1-foot waves, being like, I'm powered by a chips company. So I'm not like, I don't actually have a deal with them or anything. I just have a friend who works there who sent me a care package out of the blue one time. And I was like, fake it till you make it. Maybe you'll see at they chips once they get into the foiling game. I don't think they do.
You got to get their change their tagline to just chipping in.
Yeah. That actually works really well.
So tell me about.
Call you. You're the idea guy.
Tell me about your recent.
Yeah, so I grew up in Florida. I moved out. I lived in Texas for a while, and then I moved out to California about 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm back in Florida a lot, so I'll bring the foil back. And there's, as you know, like there's a great crew over there. And then I'm usually home in like the winter for the holidays when we actually have some wind and waves in Florida. Got to, I think like me and a couple foil buddies who I've met through foiling, we've been chipping in the Port Everglades in the inlet in Fort Lauderdale. And you can kind of chip in and ride the tanker waves, which I don't know if anybody's been doing that in the past. So we got a couple laps on the tankers last winter. But one of the things I think like is so cool about traveling with foiling is, like when you think about like across action sports, one of the things I think about a lot is like skateboarding. And I think skateboarding, there's the canvas of what you can do with skateboarding is like 100x any other action sport, right? I think surfing, you need a wave, snowboarding, you need a mountain. And skateboarding, you have essentially like the entire world. But you need both like the creativity and the skill set to like activate on like a feature, right? Like you can see a stair set or a roof, even like the guy Jaws who jumps off roofs. And like you need the creativity to see it, but then the skill set to actually do it. And I think foiling draws a lot of parallels like in this like traveling space where like you see these guys, they're like pumping through the canals in Amsterdam or like kite foiling through the marshes in OBX, or even like when Brady, they did that like 100-mile run from island to island in Hawaii, like to have the creativity to think like 0 to 1, like it's never been done and I'm going to do it. Foiling unlocks that for you, but then you also have the skill set to be like, now I can actually execute in doing it. So I think like as foiling develops, we're going to see this sort of like infinite canvas that just not even the ocean, right? That water provides for you. You see these guys like in Lake Austin, like wake thieving, pumping off the dock and wake thieving. Like I think the canvas that foil opens, you're going to see people foiling in like spaces across the world that have water that like has never been seen before, really.
Yeah, it seems like new areas and spots are just opening up on the daily. There's a lot of people are finally catching on to, the Bay Run type scenarios, the Hood River type setups with outgoing tides and opposing winds and turning in like, channels into pretty world-class downwind runs.
Yeah, right. Like I see you guys at what's it called? Chums or whatever.
Chums. Yeah.
Yeah. Like before foiling, you'd look at that and be like, this just looks kind of like a miserable place to go boating. And now it's like, all right, we got a mini Hood River in our backyard.
It's pretty wild. Tell me about your trip to Mexico recently. Where'd you go? What's the scene like?
Yeah, went down to La Ventana, which is a heck
I didn't recognize that as La Ventana. Okay.
Yeah, gotcha. Heck of a place. I guess people like there's this big crew of people that sort of winter in La Ventana and summer in Hood River.
Yeah, huge.
Get the fans. Yeah, Baja Blast up and down between the two. It's a heck of a place. I don't want to blow up the spot too much. It was definitely a little on the crowded side, but it was a really cool spot. And I was learning to, I'm still pretty early in the downwind experience, right? And this conditions here in San Diego are like marginal at best, but there's a good scene here, if you will, in San Diego.
Yeah, tell me about the downwinding scene in San Diego. It's not known for good winds and downwind runs. You've got kelp seaweed issues. What's it like? How's the crew growing, etc.?
Yeah, so we're lucky to have we got Roy here from Coe Leash. He's such a hammer, and he's kind of the
him and Mama
Godfather.
Karen. Yeah, him
they're
and
the
Mama
best,
Karen.
right?
Great people. Love them.
So I got hooked up with him. So when I first got into foiling and I was like, oh, I see everybody using these leashes. And I bought one. I get a call like 10 minutes later. And he's like, hey, this is Roy from Go. You're like, I live right down the street from you. You want me to just bring you the leash? I'm like, oh, absolutely. So I've been, got hooked up with him. Me and him have become really good friends. We ride together a lot. But down here in San Diego, like there is sort of this hammer crew of like a couple of the older dudes that have been doing it for a couple of years. And then there's sort of like a newer crew, if you will, of a few of us that are kind of trying to catch up to those old guys, and they sort of put us on. There is, being in California, everyone's so used to like the crowds and the super crowded scene. So it is a little like underground. It's a little on the hush hush side because, when you grow up in California, like a lot of these guys, you're so used to like every spot being blown out. You're just kind of naturally guarded a little bit, but everybody is so welcoming and kind and like puts you on. And we do runs like in conditions that the Hawaii guys would probably be like, not get out of bed for, right? Like 9-10 knots. And like you were talking about a second ago, like the bay run stuff, like there's a bunch of obviously like inlets here, and people have found some really creative, like when the wind hits just right and the tide or like an outgoing tide, it makes like mini hood rivers in some of the mini hood river being a loose term, but in the inlets here, where you can kind of like ride bumps through because the jetties are so long here in California, you can kind of ride the bumps down the jetty and then ride the tide back out.
What are the main differences foiling East Coast versus West Coast?
Well, there's a lot more weight.
I would say Southern Florida to Southern California, to be more specific.
You got to get creative in Southern Florida, that's for sure. And you got to definitely be willing to go when there are conditions. I mean, the nice thing about San Diego is there's waves every single day, right? Like you can get out there every single day. There is a little bit to learn around like the tide, and there is so much grass, and finding zones where, because it's so crowded with surfing. So like being really mindful about finding the zone where there's nobody surfing, which has actually been like one of the main reasons I got into foiling, just getting so eggy about the crowds in San Diego in the surfing scene. But so like, I mean, on the East Coast, right, you got to get creative, like chipping in, finding the tanker wave or like wake thieving boat wakes or anything, or just using alternate crafts, right? Like kiting or winging or para-winging in Florida because it's a bit windier. But here in San Diego, you can prone pretty much every day. And then me and a couple of the other younger guys will get out and try to do a downwind shot like Swami's to Seaside or something. It's about like 2 miles. Anytime the wind blows even a little bit, try to get out there and perfect the down, or not perfect, but get better on the downwinding.
How much wind do you need to send a run in the Swami zone, in the San Diego zone?
I mean, we've done so I do it solo quite a bit. I got a pretty good little set. So I live, like my backyard right out this window is Swami's. So I'll take my truck and put my e-bike in it and bring the e-bike down to Seaside, which is 2 miles. Drive back up here, get in the water, and then shoot down to Seaside. And the nice thing about Swami's, it's a bit of a point, so it sticks out maybe like a half mile, so you don't have to paddle out all that far. And then with between 10 and 12 miles an hour, which is pretty average in the summer, you'll get that like most afternoons. You can kind of combo like the overarching groundswell and the wind swell to sort of push you down that way. I'm by no means acing it, but it's definitely good to get out there. And the first couple of times I got it done, I was just over the moon. I was so psyched, like do it alone, like nobody really to tell me about the conditions and just get out there. I've had some shockers though, like definitely like one day, the first time I ever tried downwinding, I thought I could do it. I had done it one day in Hood River. I'm like, oh, I'm dialed. And I got looped in with some of those older San Diego hammers. And we went down to La Jolla, and we were going to go to Seaside, which is maybe like 12 miles. So we paddled out a bit, started going northbound, and I just couldn't do it. And ended up the wind dying. One of the things with the San Diego wind is very fickle. Like it comes up for an hour and then just completely dies. And ended up paddling in on my stomach like 2 miles into Black's Beach, and then hiking the Black's Beach cliff with my sup, which was pretty miserable. And all the tourists are like,
why didn't you take the Scripps? Why didn't you go to Scripps? Grab a hot shower?
I was past it. Oh, yeah. I was past it. And all the tourists are like, oh, you know, the question, like, oh, does that thing have a motor? All this, as I'm like struggling my way up the cliff in a pretty bad headspace from failing the run to begin with. And I'm just like, oh, this is miserable.
That's a bad enough walk, but yeah, with a full downwind sup setup, that's a miserable walk back, dude. The
Yeah.
walk of shame. We've all done it, man. We've all done it. Share some tips, kind of breakthroughs you've had learning to prone, you know, chip in and send it prone, as well as sup.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, I guess, that maybe getting into the question, one of the things that sort of like drove me to the prone and then to the downwind was like growing up in South Florida, right? You're surfing this horrible wind chop. So you'd be out there for an hour and you'd be maybe on your board for like 30 seconds in the hour that you're sitting out there. And I'd watch guys kiting. I'm like, those guys are on the board the whole hour. So then I got into kiting, and then I got out here and started surfing a lot. And I'm like, all right, now I'll surf for an hour and I'll be on the board for a minute. And then I see guys proning, and I'm like, wait, those guys are up doing the thing, feet on the board essentially for the whole hour. So then I got into proning, and I'm like, this is the sickest. Right now I'm, you know, actually doing the thing I want to be doing for 30 minutes out of the hour. And then I see the guys starting to downwind. I'm like, wait, now it looks like they're doing the thing the whole time, like the thing you want to be doing. That was a little bit of a naive thought, like, oh, I'll just jump on the downwind board and just have it absolutely dialed. In practice, getting on the sup is a bit more of a challenge than it initially seems, like the guys on Instagram make it look. Like the first day I got the sup, my buddy was like, I was like, I'm decent at proning. I know how to stand on the sup. He was like, dude, consider today a win. We were at the hatch. He's like, if you can just stand on the board for 10 seconds without falling, consider that a win. I'm like, oh, there's no way. That he was right.
So any tips or that helped you break through from the struggle bus and into success?
Dude, on the prone front, just like time, right? Just time, reps, like talk to the local guys that you see around there, like get the best gear, frankly, like put a little money aside, get the best gear you can. Don't price shop in the beginning, and then just put the time in. Like you're going to have a pretty rough time in the beginning. Just stay, you know, keep getting after it every single day. Keep the front foot pressure, and just be chipping in at your like local spot away from surfers as much as you can every single day until, you know, you finally are going to get that one where you really like link the first wave. You'll be like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. And then when you get on the downwind board, I think a lot of people are always like, oh, we need to get the like foam is your friend, right? Like get the biggest board, get the biggest foil so that you can actually like paddle up and spend time standing on the board, so that you're not just falling every 5 seconds, and then your progression is going to be so much slower when you're trying to like leapfrog up into the elite gear. And then the used market's so good now, right? Like buy the biggest thing and then sell that to somebody who's learning at a fair price. Like it's sort of the progression, at least here in San Diego, how everyone's doing it now, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
I mean, it's kind of rude for me to ask you a question and then give you a counterpoint, but I think in SUP especially, there is a sweet spot with your leaderage. If you know, overly buoyant can be a bit difficult too. It's, you know, it'll mess with your balance. If you sinking it just a little bit, I think there's more stability than having that really quirky over flotation feeling going on. It's a bit harder to balance. So there is a sweet spot. I know people calculate 10 liters or 10 liters over body weight or something. I'm not totally certain. I'm 160 pounds and 105, 110 liters, I think works great for me. 100 liter board. I don't know, horrible with numbers, but somewhere in that spot. That's my recommendation. The other breakthrough tip that I had that really helped me pop on foil much faster is speeding up my stroke, my paddle stroke, and not like digging deep and wrenching the board forward. It's about that, building up your board speed, and the shorter, choppier strokes, quicker, shorter, choppy strokes really helped me a lot in the ease and popping up.
Yeah. So you get out in front of you and get that paddle, like do you pull it out of the water like around your front foot?
Yeah, a little bit before. I think it you know, you've been told not to like lean and hinge super far forward and get too far out from your paddle, but I've also seen, you know, probably a poor comparison, but you know, still photos of Edo, and he's like nearly at a 90 degree bend in his waist, and his paddle is entering the water past the nose of his 8-foot board, and I found an old clip of myself first cracking the code in Hood River, and I'm kind of falling onto my paddle and it's stretched out super far forward, and I look and I've been told, no, don't do that. That's horrible technique. But it's, I just kind of cracks me up that I was doing that inadvertently, but in a much less controlled and intentional manner. So I think there's a balance between the two, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to your point, like you see that, classic picture of Edo, and he's literally at 90, like fully forward, doing the full catch with the paddle all the way out in front of him. But, I guess that'd be saying like trying to play basketball. And it's like, I saw a picture of Michael Jordan dunking. Like, let me just emulate that,
Right.
like.
Yeah. I have no business trying to copy Edo. What,
yeah. Well,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I guess in terms, and I'm definitely not one to be giving like tips and tricks, but when I'm out there on the SUP, one of the things I've really been working on is pumping the legs a lot more than the arms, right? Like I've seen a couple clips on Instagram recently, like you see these guys that are able to get up on foil on the downwind board without even the paddle, right? Just through pumping the legs. I think that's been the biggest hack, is like, especially when I'm out in the surf and you can like not downwinding, like most days I'm just out in the surf on the SUP. You can kind of see the wave coming, right? So you're standing up on the board and then start driving the legs, sort of dolphining the legs, if you will, before the wave even comes. And then you're up on a wave in 1-2 paddles when you really like are driving the legs a lot harder than leaning on the paddle.
Yeah, I think that really applies, especially after you've built up a little bit of board speed, and then you start hammering that pump.
Yeah.
Little train zooming by you.
Yeah.
So how tall, how heavy are you, and what is your go-to setup for downwinding on the SUP?
So I weigh 175. I started on the lift board that was 117 liters, which was great. I think it was a perfect one to learn on. It was a bit like, it was pretty stable. It was a great a great weight, or a great like foam. You could stand on it fairly easily. You could really get the board moving. That, like, I think that 115 to 120 literage for somebody in the 170 to 180 weight range, if you're learning, is great. Like, I'm down now on an 8.2. That's, I think, 107 liters, which has been, it's a lot it's the newer lift model. It's a lot faster, and you can really get it moving and get up quickly. I honestly think I'm at the point now I could maybe even come down a little bit more, like maybe in the 105 liter range. But I do like to use the downwind board, like for winging and stuff like that. And I'm kind of eyeing down a para-wing right now. So I think, at the 175 weight range, staying in between that like 105, 110 literage range. And then I got the unifoil. So I started on the 170. I got the 200 from Jeremy Anderson, legend in Florida. I was loving the yeah, absolutely loved the 200. It became the daily driver. Like, traveling would only bring the 200 just because I like to, pump around for a while. And I just got the 170, the Evolution 175, that has legitimately blown my mind. Like,
that wing's a bit of a unicorn. Yeah,
dude, I can't believe it. It's unbelievable. Glides as good as the 200. It feels like as fast as the 125, and it turns like the 140 of the progression line. This thing just like blows my mind.
Yeah, all those sizes are pretty amazing, but I feel like the 175 and the 205 really shine for what they do for their size. Is pretty mind-blowing. The speed they carry, the glide and all. Try not to turn this into a uni commercial, but yeah, those wings, there's something special there. I know a lot of guys in Hawaii and Australia have foregone the 135 for the 155 because it's basically goes as fast, but then you have just that little bit easier pop up and a touch more forgiveness on the low end, and kind of speaks to those wings, how well they've been crafted.
Dude, I'd love to ask you. I mean, I'm a total Barney on like the gear. I don't know a ton about the gear. I'd love to ask you. Like, I got a second with you. What, like, when you're in the water and you're proning and you're looking to rip, like, what are you riding? And then when you're going to go downwind, like, what sort of what do you look for in the gear?
Yeah, I mean, always depends on conditions. If in Florida, the Progression 100 is kind of a secret weapon. There wasn't a lot of buzz because it was a transition wing between the progressions and the evolutions. Um, it came out much later than the 125, which was the last progression release, and it came and was released just a bit before, not much before the evolution. So I feel it kind of got overlooked and lost in the shuffle there. But for small waves, it's pretty incredible. Small gutless waves. It's got a great range, and we've chopped that thing as well, made it even smaller, and it still rides pretty phenomenal. There's two pretty big name foilers out there that secretly, absolutely love that foil that they can't really talk much about, in claiming, big claims coming out of them from that. And I definitely agree. If it's not steep, let's see, put this in perspective, just living in Florida, when it's not steep and small, I'll go to, and I want to, performance foil. I'll go to the 115 evolution. It's broad, but it's still quite rippable for its span. You can bust the tips and whatnot. It's less forgiving on the low end than the Progression 100, and probably just as fast, but it doesn't hold size as well as the Progression 100. And then, now we've designed, come out with the Aggression series. The Aggression is designed for like steep, rippable waves, but that thing is outperforming our intentions in kind of all areas of foiling. The 130 is working great in small mushy waves for Eric and Pedigo and these bigger dudes at 180 to 190 pounds. It's kind of phenomenal that size wing is working so well for them. So if it's got a little more juice, I'll ride the 105. If my shoulder wasn't injured, I would probably more commonly be on the 115 Aggression, just for these, until we had some good solid swell. Those wings also pump like insanely well. They range from aspect ratio of 8 to 8.1 depending on the size, and like a really exciting, how would you say it, like an exciting unintentional, semi-intentional result is how well they glide and pump. Like it exceeded expectations. Guys are sent it like C-foils. He's sent downwind runs on the Aggressions, medium aspect wings, and had an absolute blast. I think they're going to be very popular with the Parawing, since you can size down, and typically, you're out there downwinding in like for rippable conditions. Hood River, obviously, chum style waves where you're not trying to race, although it's pretty fast wing as well. I don't want to pump it out to be like the unicorn of unicorns, but really excited on that. So those would be my like go-to like rippable wings. I'm light, I've been foiling a long time. My pump is pretty efficient. When I just want to cruise around, I'm more on a Evo 135, 155, and above that, also being kind of light in the britches, I have a harder time ripping and really pushing hard on like a 155 to 175 size wing, in whatever conditions, and I ride a bit narrower boards. My signature board model is fairly narrow, and for the broader the wingspan, the easier it is to crank those with a wider board where you can offset your stance more and leverage them. So that's kind of my ratios and what I ride.
Dude, how's your cardio? Like when you're riding these small foils? Like one of the things I always see is like Patrick does an hour on foil, and he's a huge dude. I always thought about like the balance of cardio and technique.
It's a weight ratio thing as well. It's a spot ratio. One thing I noticed when I had traveled from Kauai, where I grew up, and started foiling and pumping around there and trying to connect waves, and then I visited San Onofre one day, and the lack of like underwater current and that smooth bottom. I remember paddling out, and just the first wave was like, I can pump forever here. This is insane what's going on. Versus Hawaii, you've got a lot, more currents and uneven bottoms, and there's, sessions depending on the tide when, it's sucking out a little. We finish a ride, glide over and pump over to the channel a little bit. And if you can hook into that channel, all of a sudden you're pumping out super fast. And at some point when that current meets oncoming energy, you can feel yourself just immediately bog down, and and struggle, and that's when you like shoot back to the lineup to try and keep that ride going. So it's certainly spot dependent. I know these dudes that are setting these ridiculous records of being on foil for literally 4 hours, I believe, 4 hours plus. They're in Kane's done some insanely long sessions, all up on foil the entire time. A lot of that is it's depends on, you know, obviously skill, efficiency, equipment, but there's a big factor involved with just your lineup, currents, what your interval, how soon can you get to another wave to rest on it, and your technique there. So just like everything in foiling, there's a bajillion factors, and it's really hard to summarize and filter through it all.
Yo, what do you think about, so one of the places we foil a lot is a river mouth that it'll be on an incoming tide, right? So the water's going inwards.
Del Mar?
When you're foiling.
Can I ask
Yeah.
I used to live across the street from that.
Really?
Yeah. Long before surfing in college. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's
anyway,
gnarly. What were you doing there?
I only asked because, you know, how every surfer is, they want to go back and get revenge on every shitty spot they've ever been to on the foil and have, you know, the greatest time of their life. But so I'm just curious. But yeah, so tell me about that.
So, like, you know, obviously the foil is the same concept of an airplane wing, like water moving over it generates lift. And I feel like when you're foiling there, when you're going out against the current, it should be generating extra lift, but it almost feels like you're like running uphill when you're going against the current.
Yeah, you're opposing a force, even if it is generating, you know, more lift. You're still opposing that force. I would imagine that it would have to, you know, it's only like a friction coming towards you, where in a flat current, whereas, you know, that same effect in a Hood River scenario, you're having bumps that are also creating lift and supporting, you know, that energy, opposed to just like going into the current. So I believe that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Probably have to ask someone smarter than me, but
yeah, I don't know too much about the whole like actual logistics of it all.
Kyle, you know, living in San Diego, Florida, seeing, you know, these super crowded lineups and often in quite shitty waves, where are all the fucking surfers? Why haven't we seen this mass onboarding to foiling? The joy it spreads, the amount of water time you can get, like what you envisioned right off the bat and understood about foiling, being on, you know, on your feet, riding for a half hour out of a hour session, let's say, versus, you know, an entire, you know, 40 seconds of ride time in entirety in that same hour. What's the holdup? Where are they? What's the resistance in your opinion?
And there's obviously like a cost factor involved, right? And a stigma, which everyone's talked about ad nauseum. Like it's almost like boogie boarding to surfing or skating to rollerblading, right? There's obviously a stigma. And hopefully, as you know, the people in the foil community, we can do a good job of not keeping that stigma negative, right? Like sometimes I'll see people here, even in San Diego, that are like proning in the middle of a pretty crowded lineup. And maybe I'll say a little something offhand, be like, look, this is not what you want to be doing because we want people to be joining this. That said, like, I mean, I do think we're in sort of a golden era right now where, like, I think in a couple of years, like, this will be something that is much more mainstream, right? Because it is just light years better than surfing in like a super crowded spot. So I do think we have this kind of like golden era right now to be taking advantage of it before it gets super blown out. But even when that happens, like, have you guys ever talked about like the scarcity factor?
Yeah, also at nauseum at time, I believe. But yeah, the that whole mentality, absolutely. And that's what's so attractive to the foiling, right? In lineups, there's plenty of places in the world already, foil lineups, even without surfers, that it's getting crowded and there's, you know, a little bit of egginess going on. But in the realm of downwinding, it'll be tough for that to become overcrowded. But the hatch area, I was speaking to, I guess, just the other day about that, and how that it is feeling crowded, it is feeling full at the hatch in these places, especially when you have people arriving to the spot, let's say in Hood River, you know, the center of attention there, and trying to build their skills there instead of, you know, fucking off down the river and coming back with, you know, it's the same thing as, you know, when I've been to G-Land and you see dudes, you know, come off the boat wearing booties, and, you know, they have to, you know, go to their knees and then to their feet to to, stand up on a wave and they're just stinking up the line. I was like, man, you haven't earned it yet. You're causing problems. You're a danger factor. That exists also in foiling, exists at the hatch. And like you're saying, the self-regulation, another common theme. We, as stewards of the sport, as participants of the sport, it's really important for us to self-regulate and spread the positive vibes and make sure we keep things moving forward and not moving back.
I got absolutely punished at G-Land last year. I went there solo. It's like a huge swell and just got absolutely punished. It's a heck of a place.
Not to blow myself up, but I still have a couple of waves just absolutely burnt into my brain from G-Land catching it magical. One was like a foot or two overhead barrel at sunset and had an entire school of like these little fish pouring through the wave and the gold light reflecting off it was like golden rain. They're like landing. I can hear them like landing on my board. They're fucking bouncing on my face and my body.
That's like a mental
place.
Framer.
Yeah,
frame that one mentally.
Magic place. And then to further brag, I guess the other wave that I'll never forget as long as I live was coming off the boat. Last guy off the boat being dropped off way outside at was it Money Trees. It's been 20 plus years, and slowly making my way into the lineup from outside in and hearing like a crowd of people start yelling, like, go, set. I'm looking like, what's going on? I look over my shoulder and there's a massive set. And I remember reluctantly putting my head down. It was first wave of the session, just not even warmed up yet. Reluctantly putting my head down and stroking into this bomb that gave me a little cloud break push in and proceeded to get like some of the bigger barrels I've ever had in my life through each of those sections.
All the way through it, it's speedies and everything.
Well, come out, huge barrel, come out, set up the next section, and those are golden years.
What were we riding?
A 6'9" Glen Payne. Yeah, undergunned. It was a big day, and that was a bit of my reluctance there too. Is like, fuck, I wish I had a 7.2 today. This is a bit intimidating. But yeah, nothing like peer pressure. Some of the best waves I've ever caught in my life have been full on via peer pressure.
Yeah, no, actually.
I used to have a tow partner in Costa Rica for surfing, and he was this guy, Quinn Campbell, absolute legend, such a good dude. He is a psycho. He was trained to tow surf with Ramon Navarro, that absolute bag in from Chile. I think Chile. Yeah, and so he just has no fear, it feels like. And we'd go out and he'd call me up on the big days. He trained me he taught me how to tow surf, basically drive the ski responsibly and safe and all this kind of stuff. And we had hand signals, everyone used first wave, second, third, whatever. And we'd always be motoring out to the, the horizon. You'd see a set and he'd be like, what? And I'm like, okay, cool. Start leaning. He's like, no. Second wave. I'm like, fuck. Okay. He's like, oh. And his eyes get big and he'd like get this cackle, like this evil superhero look. Third wave. I'm like leaning in, trying, no, I'll go on the second one, like trying to lean in and just take. He's like, no. And he'd put me into some absolute beat downs, but some absolute like memorable waves. I'll put it that way. Yeah.
That's insane. Where was that?
Peer pressure. This is at a spot that I just mentioned briefly on other podcasts in Costa Rica that mimics Namibia. Is
God,
incredibly fast underground. It gets to a point where it just starts getting wider, not taller. You have to like pump in the barrel when it's really working. You're like pumping in the barrel the whole way. The wipeouts can be really ferocious for two reasons. One, just the nature of the wave, very strong. You can thumped on the bottom. It's not that deep. But the second factor is that you have to keep moving so much. It's so much negotiation in the barrel, trying to outrun the foam ball. The foam ball will gobble you up, and it's literally 20-second barrels you can get there. And since you're so active and pumping, if you go down and wipe out, you're like, it's kind of like falling when you're sprinting. You're like moving and you're out of breath and taxed. But those are amazing days. I do miss barrels. I haven't surfed for anything, outside of one or two just random sessions here and there, typically longboard for many years. It's one of the reasons that I was, attracted to foiling is the low impact from it. I had suffered a pretty bad hip injury. I got from that same Namibia type spot. I was in a pretty scary barrel, and the thing clipped me and drove me through my board. I was leaning forward. I'm a goofy foot, so my right leg had all the weight on it, and it drove me through my board. My board broke, and it shoved the femur of the femur head into my socket, and just pulverized like a 1 by 1 inch piece in my hip that created a necrosis and had like this hole in it for years. I haven't had an MRI for years to check it out, but it's been like a 20+ year recovery from that. I had 3 different opinions, and they all told me, hip replacement. And at the time, I'm like, no, fuck that. I'm too young for that. I'm going to heal through will. Bit naive, but hip replacements are much better now. What I understand, you walk out same day, get replacement, they get you on their feet immediately. Back then, there was similar, but not quite as good of options, at least in my opinion. And I believe that that hole is slowly filled in over the years, but I've had problems with it off and on for quite a long time. Like if I foil too much, work out too much, jogging especially, or hiking with weight on my back, it can flare it up, and and it becomes pretty uncomfortable. At its height, I could be feeling totally fine, and the example I use, what I remember so clearly, is just walking through a grocery store, completely flat tile, and just one random step it would send a shockwave through my leg up to my body, and I'd literally collapse. Like, couldn't support it. It was just crippling pain, and fall to the ground. People are, looking at me like, what the fuck's wrong with this guy? And I'm like,
Jesus.
I'm on the ground.
Yeah.
Like, wheezing and slowly get up, and have to take, 10, 15 steps to like hobbling steps to like smooth it out. But beautiful thing about foiling is it's much easier on the joints. You can definitely overdo it. I know a lot of people have created back problems for themselves from over pumping, and I think a lot of that has to do with how you set your foil up and your weight distribution. If you're too heavy on one side or the other, you create imbalances, and you can overdo it. I was returning from my last trip to Australia. It was a month-long trip, and spending hours daily in the water. We got really lucky with the swells, and I remember getting home just feeling absolutely roasted. By the 3rd week there, I was having a hard time getting to my feet because my hip was flaring up, and can't like pop up and swing that foot under myself. It's like an impingement feeling, and it's hard to get that foot up, and so I was having a hard time like starting to make drops and whatnot. And I remember I was got home, and I was kind of complaining, kind of crying to my lady, and she put in a really good perspective. She's like, you're up on foil, you're pumping around, you're riding for multiple hours a day. You're like running a marathon almost every day for a month. Like, what the fuck do you expect? I mean, it's like, you got to rest and recover. It's like, you're not a spring chicken. I was like, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I probably overdid it, but it was firing. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds gnarly. It doesn't seem to slow you down too much. I see you out there ripping.
It's, it's an addiction. We've all got it, and it's hard to stop, but yeah, need to start planning a bit for the future. I am finally especially with this injury, it's been a good time to reset, think about, long-term taking care of the body. I'm 47, and so I'm starting to lift weights again. I've always been skinny, but just thinking about bone density, future, keeping the joints and the body up to snuff.
How's the diet? What are you eating?
It's a bit of a hybrid kind of paleo type diet. I eat what I consider eating clean. I adjust it depending on my activity levels and what I'm doing. I'm not super versed in that, but read and AI it and get myself plans and whatnot. How about you? What are you doing to stay bulky, bud?
Dude, I'm on the Factor meals. That would be a sponsorship I'd love to be powered by. The Factor meals come in the mail every week, dude. 500 to 700 calories a meal. Eat a couple of those a day. Throw them in the oven for a few minutes, man. That's my happy place. Crushing a couple. I'm gonna crush one right after this.
I've now lifting and trying to, having this injury on the right hand right side of my body has really affected even my right leg. It's shrunken.
Really?
You know, you're constantly guarding, you know, for, you know, I was injured
Protect.
5 months ago. It took 2 months for me just to get my surgery. And so, yeah, it's been a little over 5 months of guarding on my right side. And one day I realized, I'm like, holy shit, this right side is weak. Like I can't
Yeah.
do the same stuff. And I realized that even like bending down to pick stuff up, kneeling, I was always using my left side. So I'm trying to reverse that now. One of the biggest things that helped me is I started just eating, forcing myself to eat more. I'm not as hungry because I'm not out there burning, you know, a million
Burning
calories a
cows.
day anymore. And so, yeah, eating more and starting to eat like a solid breakfast. And, you know, before I think I just kind of a natural intermittent faster. And I've had to like cut that out. You know, I don't need to lose weight. I need to gain it and increase muscle mass.
Yeah, it's always like, I mean, I'm a pretty skinny guy too, and it's always an interesting conversation. I'm like, I'm trying to gain weight. I feel like a lot of people are always like, oh, like what a gift. You know, I'm
Yeah.
like, no, it's like you got to stuff your face. Like, it's like I force myself to eat when I don't want to, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes a big difference, huh?
And I think to kind of like bring that full circle to the, like the body, like protecting the body with foiling and like getting to the masses. Like, I mean, there comes a point where people just like can't surf anymore, like can't do the things they want, but they can still get out and like there's a crew of, you know, 60, 70-year-old guys down here in Mission Bay in San Diego that are winging every single day and they're out there pursuing their hobby and their passion. And maybe it looks a little different than it did from them like 30 years ago, but they're out there every single day. I saw, like, I was listening to Kalama. He was saying he gets like the same flow state now when he downwinds that he got when he used to tow jaws. Like, you can really lock in mentally with foiling and have this, you know, out of body sort of flow state experience with a lower tax on the body, if you will.
Yeah. I have a hard time thinking of other sports outside of motorsports where you can really carries the same longevity with such a big payoff and excitement still. It's funny,
Yeah.
you know, we're preaching to the choir here, waxing
Yeah.
poetically about foiling, but it's can't get over it, man. It's been 7 years or something, and just more froth than ever. Pretty wild. God bless the foiling. Kyle, what's the future of foiling look like in your eyes? Do you have any predictions? Are you spotting trends? Where are we going?
I think I think we'll see a lot in the wind space, right? Like the parrowing was a massive change, and that's still like a really new discipline. And what people are going to be able to unlock with that, like I saw um, when I spent a month in Hood River this summer, and I saw Cash was doing like backflips with the parrowing, right, on like a 25, 30 liter board, right? Like this is that going back to that skating thing where it's like he has both the creativity and the skill set to do that. And as this gear progresses, right? Like, who knows what the next parrowing is going to be? Like, I saw a dude yesterday, he was out there downwinding with an umbrella, you know? Like, I think the wind, like, there's so much wind everywhere in the world, and there's so many ways to harness it. I think, you know, like the paddles, I'm still a paddle purist, but you can only go so far with the paddle. I think, like, being able to unlock different disciplines with the wind is going to be a pretty nuts next couple of years, and especially because it's so windy on so many places on Earth, right? Like, what's going to happen, and different people are going to like in surf, like, you know, Surfline does that maps to nowhere thing where they're the forecaster like finds some place in somewhere in the world where he like hypothesizes it's going to be good, and they fly out there and no one's ever surfed there before. Like, I could see that happening with, you know, like wind patterns across, you know, like Brazil or Argentina or Patagonia or wherever, where people start to unlock some insane, whether it's like wind based runs or even downwind runs across the world, where it's like, I think that the sort of like backdrop is going to be one of the big things versus, you know, like you got guys like Noah and Austin, they're doing flips and stuff and they're going to keep progressing that, but that's not as attainable, I would say, for the your average person. So I think just changing the backdrop and the setting is going to be an absolutely nuts outcome.
Yeah, there's so much future in that. It reminds me of, you know, the Lenny brothers and a handful of others. By um, McElroy, I always
Yeah,
butcher
yeah.
his last name, but Malai. He released a video the other day that was just fucking mind-blowing downwinding, and he did like five or six sequence combo of backflips and alley-oop rotations, all downwinding with straps, and it was absolutely mind-blowing. And seeing the Lenny's doing that kind of stuff and taking like prone style, wing style maneuvers to the downwind, it's pretty phenomenal. Wild to watch.
Yeah. Or even the big wave stuff, like Batahi at chokes on a foil, like doing the sitting down move in like a 12-foot chokes barrel. Like, these guys are nuts.
Yeah, the barrel riding isn't there yet in foiling, but it's a matter of time, right? It's a matter of time till we start just threading these crazy barrels in the foil consistently as well, and it's not just a one-off.
Yeah.
I like it. Good predictions, good foresight, man. Kyle, anything? What else, man?
Man, I gotta say, I was happy to be here. So thankful for foiling. Couldn't be. If you haven't gotten into it, set a little money aside. Change your life for the better, right? The people you're gonna meet, the places you're gonna go. Sounds like a Dr. Seuss book, but most of the people I spend my time with now I've met through foiling. Like, frankly, like, I mean, I have a great friends group, but the vast majority of literally time I spend now is with people that I know through foiling, and we foil together. So like, it's legitimately alters the direction of your life and getting in this thing that you can pursue for the rest of your life and keep you happy and healthy.
Well, I want to congratulate you on building up to having earned a unifoil ambassadorship. I think you're an amazing ambassador for the sport, your content, and your day-to-day interactions with people, positivity, and the amp. So it's well earned, dude, and stoked that you're on the uni team there, representing yourself and the brand. Awesome, dude. I really enjoyed the conversation, and just look forward to seeing where you go next and what you do, man. Thank you for your time coming on. Super stoked.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Brian. This was sick.
Thanks,
Thank
dude.
you.
Appreciate it. And don't forget to foil the world.
Yes, sir.